Every now and then as a pastor, you get to make an incredibly exciting announcement, and it's just one of those once-in-a-lifetime moments. And this week, I want to announce that our new Daylight soundtrack is up. And it's really, really good, y'all. So check it out. You go to mydaylightchurch.com for that. When we started Daylight, a lot of people talked to me about how challenging it can be to start a church. And I clung to this verse. I found it in Proverbs. It says, "The road that the righteous travel is like the sunrise, getting brighter and brighter until daylight has come." And it was this idea that it's going to be a long journey. It's not going to happen overnight. Some of these churches come in well funded and with tons of manpower. You know, they've got 40 volunteers from day one and $1.8 million in the bank. And I think we started with 60 grand and 7 people, something like that. And we've been in it 5 years, and here we are. And Daylight is coming, and Daylight's doing neat stuff. And people told me from the beginning, I had 3 different people before we planted this church say this thing will be a marathon and not a sprint. And they specifically said things like, you'll overestimate what you can accomplish in a year, and you'll underestimate what you can do in 10 years. And it's just this idea that planting a church is hard. It's brutal, grueling labor to a certain extent, but that God is behind the whole thing and doing stuff and meeting people where they're at and making a difference in people's lives, and that the grind is worth it. And we started on 4 principles, which back then were humanitarian service, apologetics and study, worship and devotion, and missions and outreach. And that was always a real mouthful. So about 3 years in, we changed it to service, study, worship, rest. And that rest was just a beautiful thing. And it just wasn't quite as convoluted. And we've done all kinds of neat stuff in all of those areas that I'm going to touch on briefly. And in the area of service, we do our Site 61 Thanksgiving Banquet. And this is an all-hands-on-deck event that we have. We do these quarterly events. And this is providing a Thanksgiving meal to people in the Louisville community that typically will not have a Thanksgiving meal of their own. It's in a lower income part of town, and odds are these people would never get a feast. But we provide for them a feast, and it's very exciting. And so that's at mydaylightchurch.com, and it's coming up the end of this month. And so if you guys would sign up for that, we need help with it. We provide Valentine's Day celebrations at a local nursing home every year around February. We've done weekend retreats for the St. Jude's girls. They're some of the bravest people in the world in recovery here in town. And we've done food service projects through Dare to Care and coat drives, and we fed the homeless. And we invest about 15% of every penny that comes in elsewhere. So 15% that comes in just immediately goes out the door every month. And we give to missionaries around the world, but we also give humanitarian service projects like Teen Challenge and St. Jude's and Hildegard House, which is a hospice care for homeless people. So it's people who are at the end of life and they have no place to go and no family to take care of them. It's hospice care for them. And Convoy of Hope, Benevolence Funds, Project Rescue, which is fighting human trafficking and more. And so in 5 years, we've accomplished a ton. In the area of study, we've done book studies and topical studies and Bible studies and mini conferences and leadership retreats. And we've had experts come in and talk about finances. We've had experts come in and talk about apologetics and talk about health and health issues. And it's been really exciting, and now we're going to be able to do a whole lot more. And that's kind of what I'm getting at today, is that we've been able to do all this stuff just meeting in here for an hour a week and then outside in the community. But we're going to be able to expand on all of this. We do our Sunday morning services. We do nightlight services, which are quarterly worship experiences. And then nowadays we're doing something that Abby tabbed Tuesday night twinkle lights, which still makes me uncomfortable somehow. I don't know what to call it, though. Tuesday night worship night seems kind of odd, and I'm still looking for the right answer where that's concerned. But it's been exciting seeing people worship God. I remember the very first time we had a nightlight service. The team was playing, and we had a time of prayer. And there were a couple people who came down to the front of the room, and there were some stairs down from the platform, and they were on their face talking to God and crying. And I just remember thinking, this is a beautiful thing. And honestly, it was a couple people that I never expected would be on their faces before God and crying, but they were. And we've seen really neat stuff happening. This Tuesday night thing, we had 9 people there last week, and it's just a beautiful time of worship, and in my opinion, one of the most important things going on in our church right now. And then in the area of rest, we do our volunteer Christmas banquets as a celebration every year and try to honor all our volunteers and give away a lot of gifts and have a white elephant gift exchange. And we've done pizza with the pastor and brunch blitz. And First Friday is now. So Rachel, did we get your name spelled right on the? Yeah. All right, good. I was excited about that. So she brought an Indian chili, and there was a Jamaican chili with bananas in it. And I was sick in bed Friday night, and Kara brought me all these bowls of chili, and I have to admit, I passed on the banana chili. I apologize. But everybody said it was the second best one there. And apparently got voted first by one of the judges at least. So who brought the Jamaican chili? Oh, okay. Well, they're not here because they got hurt because I wouldn't eat their banana chili, I guess. I don't know how they knew. And we've done some summer gatherings, and now First Fridays are going to expand. I guess for First Friday next month, we're doing a cookie exchange, a Christmas cookie exchange, Christmas cookies and candy or whatever. So you'll come in and we'll have, I don't know if we'll judge for the best Christmas cookies or not, but you'll hopefully leave with a bag full. No judging. All right. No judgment here. This is a judgment-free cookie zone. From the very beginning, we've prayed this prayer. I pray it out loud almost every Sunday morning before our services, that we will do what we can do and that God will do what we can't. And we've seen some really neat stuff. So our very first service that we held right here in this theater, God showed up in a way. Go back and watch some of those early videos, just stuff that we just couldn't possibly have orchestrated. Families that were here that knew each other, that were dealing with certain issues. And we've just seen it over and over. But when it's come to a search for a building, this has been my prayer. Because Molly's been our realtor, and she's been an incredible help through this whole situation. At 11 o'clock at night, we're texting each other about all the logistics. So, Molly, thank you. It's okay for all three of you to clap for her, yes. And Molly knows, and her husband Joseph knows, because he has to give her up all the time for the phone calls and texts, that we've looked at a bunch of buildings, and they've either been inadequate or unaffordable. And there have been a couple situations where we could have really pushed and really tried hard to make a capital gain of some sort, some kind of capital campaign to raise the money, and we probably could have made it happen, but it would have felt like work. It would have felt like we were trying really hard to make something happen. And we've prayed this prayer from the beginning. We're going to do what we can do, and we expect you to do what we can't. And we've always said that we want 10 years from now to look back and say, God did this. It wasn't us working so hard. It wasn't us grinding it out, but instead that God showed up and did something. And I showed you some of the aerial views last week and the trivia question, guess who's getting a church? But this is us, and here it is. It's a former Knights of Columbus building, which you've seen on the video, and now you guys are probably getting tired of seeing pictures of, but it's a wonderful facility, and we're not paying a penny for this property. We have some anonymous benefactors that I want to talk about briefly. And they sat me down a few months ago and said, what does the church need? And at that point, we needed a worship leader, we needed a children's pastor, and we needed a facility. And they said, well, we're going to give X amount to your budget this year and every year from here on, so you can go ahead and do your hiring. So they're paying for our children's pastor, they're paying for our worship leader. And then a couple months later, they said, okay, so you got your worship pastor, you got your children's leader all lined out. Now let's talk about a facility. And here we are. They said, we want to take care of you. Go find what you want. Go find what will work for you, and we're going to take care of you. And it relates sort of in a very roundabout way. If you guys are up on the pulse of social media at all, then you know that Kanye West has experienced some pretty radical changes recently. And Kanye West is not our benefactor. And in case you were wondering, I just thought you might be worried about that for some reason. And that's not the guy. But he's experienced a radical change, and our benefactors have done something similar. So many people have been out of shape trying to figure out, is this thing real or not with Kanye? And what I want to say is just shut up. Let God do his thing. God's doing something amazing. And it was such a perfect answer. He said, are you a Christian artist now? He says, I'm a Christian everything. And that's kind of what's happened in our benefactors' lives, is that there's been this radical transformation occur, and they've reevaluated it. How they spend their money and what they do with life. And that's kind of the whole shtick of Daylight Church, is that Jesus comes in and just uproots everything and changes everything. And it changes. Kanye, during that interview, called out a guy in the front row who had just won the New York lottery for $298 million and started preaching to the guy about some really amazing stuff that I can't get into today. But he just kind of owned the interview, and God was just speaking through him in front of a large crowd. And God's just raising up people of means. And God's raising up people with influence. And our benefactors are those kind of people that God has radically gotten a hold of, and they just want to make a difference. And they would say, so there have been two things occurring in my life right now, and one you're not going to be able to hear about for at least another week, but they've been the greatest honors of my life. And one of them has been this, is somebody saying, hey, because when they said we want to give you $550,000, what do you do with that? I'm like, there's no words. How how do I say thank you enough? How do I show my appreciation enough? And I was told, no, we should be the one thanking you. Because the sermons at Daylight Church were pivotal in this transformation that's occurred in our lives. And they said, so thank you. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You don't get it. Thank you. And there's this mutual thing going on. And what has happened at Daylight Church is, we've said it over and over on all our anniversaries, it's much bigger than what goes on in this room. There's a lot of people listening in a lot of places. And these people that are giving are some of those people. And they did tell me after a while, and I'd already let it be known a few times accidentally before that, but they said, one thing we request is that only those who need to know we did this. So they're wanting to keep, Jesus says when you give, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And they're being very humble about it. But when I wrote and said thank you to them, they said, we can't wait to write the check. We feel so blessed God included us in this story. It's one of the most humbling moments of our lives. And hearing that this is a humbling moment for them is like insanely humbling for me. And I believe should be humbling for our church. And they've said comments like this. They've said the money is nothing. They've just said the work that's going on there in Louisville and the work of Daylight Church is supremely important, and that's why they're giving. And it's just spectacular. Can we give God a hand and say thanks, God? I mean, it's just unbelievable. And so there's more to the story, too. This building, the Knights of Columbus building, Molly sent me a book. So the Knights of Columbus keep a book about the history of all their councils, and this council was established years ago. And they've done all kinds of charitable work in this area. And they founded a track and field event meet that was somehow charitably minded, and I couldn't find the history of what that was, but they talk about it. And then they've served at the Louisville Cerebral Palsy School. They've established a halfway home for released prisoners. Oh, so they sponsored track and field events. I did get that on there. They've participated in Tootsie Roll drives, which are fundraisers for charity, and then they've provided substantial charitable donations through Bingo Income. And so that's what this building has been used for up till now. And so I was able to write them a letter and say, hey, thanks for what you did. Now we want to carry on from there. Now we want to be a part of this community and use your building to do what you always wanted it to do in the first place. And they responded favorably to that. We've heard from the realtor that they want us to do what we described in that letter that we would do. And this is just flippin' amazing. We found out that all the proceeds from this sale are going to charity. So not only are our benefactors donating to Daylight Church, that money is then in turn getting donated elsewhere to charity. And this is just a supreme act of generosity on all sides. And it's amazing. It's just unbelievable. And we've wanted a story that we could look back and say, God did that. And this is what we've got. God is doing this. God is making this happen. So now when we talk about having a building, and I'll just say this. I was confiding in Mike earlier, and so it must not be too much confidence because I'm about to tell you guys. But so when you plant a portable church, you have to go in prepared for a grind. The load in and load out every single Sunday coming. This morning, for example, I didn't even get to look at my sermon early because we just had stuff that the pillars have to get up, the lights have to be set, the speakers have to be in place, they have to be calibrated properly, and it's just a grind. But you have to go in with this mentality, and you and your team both. And I know the team's gotten tired, but you have to go in with this mentality of you got to do it. This is non-negotiable. Every week you've got to go in and make this thing happen. And I'm just going to be honest and say I was about at the end. This whole 5 years of it. You can stir yourself up long enough, but I was getting to the point where it was like, oh no, do I have to do this again? Do I have to do this again? Do I have to do this again? And God knew, and God has taken care of us. And our team is just really excited that we're going to walk into a building and the speakers are going to be set up. And the stuff on the walls is going to be the stuff that's supposed to be on the walls. And the coffee, you'll just flip it on and it'll have a water supply that goes to it. And I mean, it's just going to be amazing just to have a place that's ours. I mean, just from a personal perspective of how wonderful it will be just that we go in and turn on the lights and go is just going to be phenomenal. And then we don't have to kick people out at the end. I know there's that sense here at Daylight that, okay, service is over, now go with God, but seriously, go, right? And we won't have to do that anymore because right now everybody has to go out there and tear down the kids' ministry and tear down up here and move those crooked, ugly pillars away. And there's going to be no more of that. We can linger. We can hang out at our church and establish relationships. It's going to be beautiful. So in the areas of service, study, worship, and rest, we're going to be firmly planted in a local community, which means we're going to be able to find the felt needs of our local community and know where to serve. We're in a section of Louisville that I've always wanted to be a West Side church, but West Side churches literally can't afford to keep their doors open in many situations. And so we've always kind of dreamed about an East Side church that would support a West Side church. And there's been a lot of talk about that, about the I-65 divide that's both racial and socioeconomic, and where our hearts were. And this is like right smack in the middle. I mean, it's just perfectly situated where East Side and West Side meet, which I just love it. Even just to say it out loud, East Side and West Side meet is just amazing, just wonderful. But we're gonna be free and clear on the property, so we're gonna pay for this thing cash, which means we're now gonna be every month here at Daylight. There's been probably a tenth of the months we don't quite make budget, but most of the time we do, and we've been self-sustaining from the beginning. But now with no payment at all, now we're gonna have utilities, and we're gonna have to clear it of snow, and we're gonna have security and internet and all this other stuff, and most of it will be a wash, but we'll be in a safer place on a monthly basis that we can be even more charitable and do more for outreach, and so that's gonna be helpful. It's got a commercial kitchen, which is just stinking amazing because we need it so bad for our food truck. Because to be established, to monetize a food truck, you have to have a commercial kitchen that the health inspector can come and inspect, and you get that little plaque on your wall that says we scored 100 or we scored a 97. And right now they have 100 on the front of their building. It's a nice commercial facility that we're going to be able to use to serve our local community through our food truck ministry. And as we'll talk about in a little bit, we'll be able to monetize that as well. They do this thing, Thursday Jazz and Dance. We were there the other day inspecting the HVAC systems, and I heard swing jazz coming from inside. There were like 40 cars in the parking lot, and I thought somebody was playing a sound system. Turns out it was just an exceptionally good live band that plays there every Thursday for the community. And I went in and I recorded like 5 or 6 seconds of it. So Chris, it's very brief, but you'll see what they do on Thursdays. You'll also notice that the acoustics were pretty decent. I was worried about that because they're concrete walls, and we've been in paradise acoustically for a long time, but it turned out pretty good. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be able to discover needs. We're going to be able to look around the community and go door to door and invite people to church and find out what the local. We'll be able to pick a local school and say, now you're our school. You're the school we support, and so forth. So it's just going to be nice to be planted in a community. As far as study goes, we're going to have a fixed location for services and studies. It's an excellent meeting space for Point of Light groups. Every time we coordinate our Point of Light groups, we're like, where will they meet? Now they meet in our coffee bar if they want to. It'll just be exceptional to be able to do that. And then we'll be able to do community seminars. I interviewed a pastor recently for a magazine article, and they were doing things like, so I have a lawyer friend who has supported Daylight Church, and he specializes in helping men in custody cases. And so we could have him come and just advertise in the area, hey, if you're a man looking at a custody case, here's a guy who can answer your questions. We just open the doors. We bring in experts on all kinds of stuff and just open the doors to the local community. We find out what the local community needs. We bring in experts. We bring them in. There's all kinds of neat stuff we can do in the area of study. In the area of worship, we're going to be able to have extended Sunday morning services. Now, don't freak out because I love the hour service too. I really do. But there's times that it doesn't feel right to say, okay, we're done, get out. You know, most of the time that part doesn't feel right. There's times we want extended prayer. We want the team to play music for a while and just to linger and pray and worship God. And now we're going to have the freedom to do that, the luxury to do that. Whereas now, 11 o'clock comes, boom, we got to get out. And that's going to be able to change. And our nightlight services will be held there. Tuesday night twinkle lights, I don't know if we're going to, I pray to God we don't keep calling it that, but if we do, I know, and I'm just still, it's just obnoxious somehow. But I love the idea of just a lingering, come in, experience the presence of God, and wait on God service. And I wouldn't mind seeing us do this every single Tuesday. And if 6 people show up, great. If 60 show up, fantastic. But we're honoring God in this pillar of worship. And then we're going to be able to do baptisms on site. Nowadays, we do baptisms in a hot tub in the back of my house, and the only people that show up are the people being baptized. And so that's not much of a celebration. It's nice because my family and the people that live in my house are like 400 people, so that works. But we'll be able to do them on site and make them into a celebration. And then go into the room and set the chairs aside and bring out tables and have a potluck. I mean, we can do this stuff now. Did somebody say woo? Like one person is excited about a potluck. Chili with bananas in it. That's what I said too, but then everybody was like, it was amazing. So I don't know. Maybe there's I don't know. Stop talking. Okay. Not just you, bro. This is my sermon. We've done volunteer Christmas banquets, pizza with the pastor, brunch blitz, and first Fridays and summer gatherings, and now we have a site to do them all and to linger, and we don't have to be in a hurry. This is just our place, our home, and we can say welcome home to people, and it's going to be beautiful. We can monetize it. We can do weddings there. There's big money in weddings nowadays, and so this thing could pay for itself pretty easily. They do a chicken dinner there now every month that I understand they're still doing this month. They charge $10 a pop, and last time they had 220 people from the local community show up, which that's serious monetization there. And it means the community knows the location and knows to go there, that it's a place that they already go to, which is beautiful and brilliant. We can use it as just community space. So the National Guard is right next door, so if there's ever an active shooter, we just scream and everything's cool. Which obviously we pray against, but I'm just saying. So they're having their Christmas banquet there this year. And so I'm assuming they're renting the space. This is a space that we can rent out. And you'll notice in the back, so behind this little lattice wall that they built back there, there's some double doors. And on the back of that is an addition they built that is very large and huge amount of storage. And 28 of these tables, so I said these plus. These tables, Molly and I looked them up. They're about $700 a piece if you buy them on Amazon or buy them somewhere online. They fold in half, and so you can make them about this narrow and stack them against a wall against each other. It comes with 28 of them. So there's 28 of these tables. These red chairs are going fast. We're selling those as soon as we buy the building. But there's folding chairs in the back, and we're going to have church chairs. And so we can convert it into a banquet hall like that. And you can rent out a banquet hall. And so there may be some serious monetization possibilities here. Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist would be my guess. Why? Because we don't need them. They don't stack. They're obnoxious. Now, see, everybody just wants a piece of the pie already, and we're not even in the building.
Just wait till you see my list.
So this is a drawing our architect did based on a drawing I had given him that I wrote on a legal pad. So there's actually a lot missing from this left of the kitchen and south of there. We can put about 350 seats in the room if we need to. We're not going to, and actually the fire code says 207 in the main room. And so we'll have about 210 chairs in there, and then so that right column that you see, this chairs extended, that whole back area is going to be high top coffee table, or not coffee tables, but tables for coffee. And there's a bar to the north of the kitchen and to the south in the kids area. The kids area on the bottom of this picture is separated into 3 zones for 0 through 3, 4, that says 4 years through 4th grade and 5th through 12th. That's actually going to be 2 zones for nursery and children. And then we have the outbuilding that's off this map up and to the right that we're going to convert to our youth building. And it has a pavilion. And the pavilion, the ultimate goal, and if we raise as much money as we'd like, the ultimate goal is to enclose that pavilion with restaurant-style garage doors so that it can be open for fair weather and closed in inclement weather and heated and cooled. And we don't know if we're going to be able to raise that much money, but that's one of our long-term goals for sure. So this is the youth building on the outside, and there's actually a little decrepit miniature golf course to the left with an old volleyball court that we actually have to dig up to gravel. And this is the pavilion. There's 10 picnic tables under there right now, so that's enough space for 100 people to easily gather. It's a really neat little space, and there's some green space beyond that. So how are we going to make this thing happen? Now, we started with some income. Our benefactors are offering $550,000. The property is going to be purchased after closing. It should be about $440,000 to just close on the property and have it free and clear. And they're saying amazing things like it's up to you what you do with it after that. We're just going to sign it over to you and go. And then they're offering the other $110,000 towards the remodel that is somewhat extensive. And so here's some of the expenses we have for remodeling. The HVACs the furnaces are 40 years old. They've got to go. So our HVAC specialist has already looked at them, and this is the quote they gave us to replace them and the AC units. This is a really conservative stretch budget. So So we can probably get by replacing 3 of the furnaces initially, and then over time replace the furnaces and the air conditioners especially we should get a few more years out of. But ultimately, if we had our druthers, if we had our entire budget, this is what we would do. We would just replace it all and move on with life. The parking lot expansion, $35,000 is what my contractor friend who builds churches told me, but we think that if we can get his guy, he knows a guy who knows a guy type thing, if we can get them in there to spread the gravel, bring a bulldozer in, we might be able to get this done for 30. If we do it ourselves, we might be able to do it for 25, and I'm happy to drive a bulldozer. So we may see we may be able to fudge on some of this stuff, but this is, if we want the expert to do it, that's what it costs, right? I see you laughing at me driving a bulldozer. Okay, all right, we'll see. Junk removal is basically the expense of getting dumpsters over time, and there's a bunch of stuff that's just got to be torn out and ripped out and thrown in a dumpster and hauled off. The sanctuary flooring, this is a pretty precise amount. This is not flexible at this point because with professional installation, it has a lifetime warranty. If we do it ourselves, it doesn't carry a lifetime warranty, and so we're probably just going to shell out the money and make this happen. But it's going to be a high-quality commercial floor that we can, have the chairs on all the time. Signage, we budgeted $5,000. You can spend $500 by hanging a cardboard thing on your wall, or you can spend $50,000 by having the big light-up signs. We're going low budget on the signage, and we may be able to flex that a little bit. The HVAC system for the youth is about $10,000, including electrical installation. The refurb for the youth, we're tearing everything out, we're insulating it, we're drywalling it, and we're installing some lighting, and we're guessing about $5,000. The stage flooring is just carpet for $1,500 as a guess. If we get to rebuild our pavilion, it'll be about $25,000 is the guess. Sanctuary lighting and sound we're going very cheap on. We have all kinds of neat ideas of ways that we can save some money here. The roof demo, painting, and what they call a sound cloud, it could be extremely important but expensive. And so we want to it's got an old drop ceiling in it, and we want to ditch that entirely and open it up to the top and get it painted. But the problem with that is acoustically, that can create a reverb and an echo, so you have to put a sound cloud in it. So this is one of those dreams that we want to do that we may or may not be able to do. Sanctuary chairs, about $12,000 for tables and chairs. That's pretty close. Sound booth, $1,500. Drum cage. Some of you are going to want us to have a drum cage for sure, $500. Soundproofing the room, this is, it depends on the acoustics if we have to spend this money and if we can find some people to build the sound panels themselves or not. But $6,000 is what it would cost if we just said, hey, we want to get this done. The kids and nursery rebuild is $5,000, and interior and exterior paint, we're going to paint the whole place ourselves. That's the goal there. And so this number is very low. Aiden, Michael, you do not get a brush. I'm sorry. Yeah, you can spray paint that dude. That's fine. So the remodel income we already have is $110,000. If you add all that up, it's $184,000. We need to raise $74,000. This would be the dream, the stretch. We get everything done if we raise $74,000. And man, I got 5 minutes to make the big ask. And we need the big ask is three areas: money, manpower, and media. This is what we need to make this thing happen. And I may go just a little bit long today, which would be nice if we had our own theater so that we could get away with that, but we don't, so I'm traveling fast. This is a great place to invest. I get comments all the time from people inside and outside the church. The religious folks say, hey, Daylight Church changed my perspective on God. I always saw God as angry and wrathful and out to get me. And now I see that he's good and he's on my side. I hear that from religious folk pretty often. From non-religious folk, I hear the same thing in reverse. It's like, wow, I never knew that God was good. I never knew that God wanted to be with me. And I'm so excited. I've had comments like, thank you for making an atheist want to come to church. It's a good place to invest, Daylight Church is. We're really careful with our money, and you're probably not aware of this, but in our history, I don't think I've ever taken up a special offering, not once. It's really common at churches to have special offerings, but I realize money is tight. I realize you guys are already generous, and so I think in 5 years, the only time I've ever come close is to say that our children's pastor was moving to Mozambique, and if you want to help her, go talk to her. That's about the closest we've ever come to a special offering. So this is the first big ask ever in our history when it comes to finances. So please, just keep that in mind that I'm aware that money comes tight. And I'm asking you to think of something that is above, whatever you give towards this funding has to be above your normal giving. Because if you just take your normal giving and rephrase it and insert it in the building fund, then we suffer on a monthly basis. So what we're asking is to consider something above and beyond and something sacrificial. My wife and I decided we were going to do something that was kind of painful where this thing was concerned. And we're waiting to see if a tax refund comes in, and then we'll probably even get more painful when the time comes. But This is something we're willing to dive into our retirement for. We're willing to dive into our life savings for because we believe in this thing. And I'm not necessarily asking you to do that, but I am asking you to be creative and sacrificial in your giving towards this thing. And then just understand this, there's no condemnation if you can't, or if you just don't want to, or if you don't feel tied in enough, or you want to wait and see. We're not going to beat anybody up. And there's no pride if you do. Like my friend said, the money is nothing. It's about the generous heart underneath it. It's about connecting with Jesus. That's the important part, okay? And so if you can help, please do. In 2 Corinthians it says, each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. I don't want to twist anybody's arm. I'm not going to give a 10-minute sermon on why you should do this. But believe in this thing and give like you believe in it is what I'm asking you to do. There's all kinds of manpower work needs that we're going to have. As much as we can, so whatever we can do ourselves comes off the budget. So the demolition work we're planning on doing all ourselves. We're all going to come in with, anybody that will, sledgehammers and safety goggles and smash some stuff and throw it in a dumpster, okay? The ceiling in the demo cloud, if we can rip the ceiling out, we can't paint it ourselves, but we can hang the cloud ourselves. Soundproofing the room we could do ourselves. The youth building refurb we could do. Sound and lighting we can do a lot of. Building the sound booth, interior and exterior paint, I believe we actually can do all of. Pressure washing the exterior and the kids rebuild is all stuff that we can contribute to. And Scripture says that all of us have certain gifts. And some of you are mechanically minded. Some of you have electrical skills. Some of you are able to swing a sledgehammer, and some of you aren't. And I'm just asking that you would consider these next 4 months. So the goal is to get in there by Easter of next year, which I think I have on the screen. But I'm asking you to consider making some sacrifices in your time and your labor, a few hours a month to come in and do some work. This is Ryan Engler's section of the property. Ryan, are you back there? Hey, man. So this is an old fire pit that's behind the pavilion that's like 16 feet long and 4 feet deep. And he saw it, he's like, I'm going to build you guys a smoker. And I'm also going to build the Eiffel Tower back here. And I'm going to insert a fun park with a 3D glass maze. And I mean, he just saw this thing and he said, I can make this thing great. And so this is Rhino's area. He's going to take this and make it our barbecue joint that will feed our commercial kitchen, which will feed our food truck. And he saw it, and Ryan, it's yours, man. I mean, you just go with it, right? And so I'm asking you to think like Ryan's thinking is, what can I do to feed this thing, to make it happen? The goal is that Easter, April 12th of next year, Easter comes early, would be our big grand opening there. We'll do some soft services before that to make sure that we've got everything rolling. But we're hoping our first event is our Christmas banquet in December. And we're supposed to close on this thing Friday, but now it looks like it might be pushed back till a little bit later in November. But we should potentially own this property by November 20th of this year. The second event will be our Christmas nightlight service. So I'm asking you, will you give a portion of your time for 4 months? Will you make this thing a priority? Like when you're thinking of your time over the next 4 months, think, I've got to schedule some stuff. And we'll try to keep you informed as to when people will be there working. And then, man, I'm trying to fly. We need media. We need you. So if you go to mydaylightchurch.com, the first tab right now is our campaign. The video you just saw is on chuffed.org, which I don't understand at all. It's a terrible name, but they gave us like free fundraising, and so there you have it. And so we need you to share that. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through my Facebook account, and I'm going to personally message any single person that I think might be interested in contributing to a cause like this. And I'm asking you guys to do the same, because if we look around this room, if each of us gives $1,000, we're there. But let's be realistic. We're not all going to give $1,000. But we all, or most of us, would know people who could raise that amount. So I'm asking you to raise something, not just give, but to raise towards this thing. $75,000 in the grand scheme of things is not a huge amount of money. And our spheres of influence in here can cover that. And then I'm asking, do you know a guy? I remember sitting down with John Shields one day, and he said, H, I just want to let you know that I'm a guy that can get stuff done. And he said, if you need something, give me a call. And like 2 days later, I was trapped on the Waterson Expressway in the food truck that had died. And I called him up and said, did you mean that? And he said, yeah. And he's got our food truck rolling and purring like a kitten. And everybody needs to know a guy. You got to know a guy or a gal when it comes to these things. So if you know an electrician that would want to give time, if you know a plumber, if you know somebody that's in flooring, or we've got a great flooring person, if you know somebody that wants to help with that install, whatever it is, somebody who wants to help build a smoker. If you know people that are interested in charity and would be helpful, send them our way. It would be really helpful and take off the bottom line. And then finally is to pray. Be in prayer for this thing, that God will do what he wants to do. This whole time we've been praying that thing, that we'll do what we can do and that he would do what we can't. And right now, honestly, 75 grand feels to me like, whoa, I don't know that we can do that. And we can't. But he can, and he can put us in touch with the right people. I'll also say this, and I'm closing here, is that we have a great secret next week that is really, really awesome that I can't tell you yet, but it's another let's thank God and let's praise Jesus type secret over that you'll know about next week. And I just want to acknowledge God. In James it says, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. 3 weeks ago, we had no clue this thing was going to happen. And here we are, ready to close. I mean, it's just unbelievable what God has done.